Welcome to the Unlock Your Culture webcast, a monthly discussion about preserving traditional fire service culture in the modern setting. With your hosts, Sean Duffy, Pablo Jenner, John Hayowick, and Mark Alone. We hope you enjoy the show. Welcome back, everybody. Episode 16 of the Unlock Your Culture webcast with you always, Mark, and my partner in crime, John.
Hello, everyone. How's everybody doing?
Sean will hopefully be joining us here. He had to do some work on the Great Lakes Hot Conference he's got coming up. So obviously he needs to get that squared away. It'll be a good time if you're up there in the Michigan area or have some sky miles you're looking to use and some fun training. Look it up. Hot Lakes.
Great Lakes. Great Lakes Hot. There's a rumor out that I might be there. So with my newfound time.
Very good. So what's new, John? Anything? Last time I talked to you, you retired. Here you are. What you got?
I retired. Yeah, I'm right now. I'm burning a little bit of time, and things are going really well. I cannot. It's really sort of surreal that I retired. That I'm not going to work every fourth day, and yes, for everybody that just heard that, yes, every fourth day we run 4 platoons, 24/72. We love it. Jealous. I see Eric. I see Mark shaking his head, and a couple of guys that I talked to from. I was just down at the Command Officers Boot Camp down in Pensacola with Chief Isaacson, and it's funny talking to the guys that are doing 4896s, and
it's great.
The
so great.
20 was it 24 on, 48 off? That's rough.
24/48, and then you have these weird like 24 on, 24 off, 48 Kelly day, these whole weird things. So it's definitely different. I'm enjoying it. I'm enjoying being off. The one thing that my wife and I have definitely done, and I promised her that a long time ago, was making sure we worked out. Looks like Ridley's taken off to go to a job. Nice. I want to go to a job. Job town.
I can only buff jobs now. It's interesting. I listen to my guys. That's actually something that was pretty cool. Like within the first, I think the week or a week and a half that I stopped going to work, the guys caught a 3rd floor apartment job, and they, nice ventilation. I'm listening to the truck work going on, listening to the engine guys stretch. And it's one of those corner buildings that we really don't like. It's just a big building, and the guys did an amazing job. I'm really happy with where I left the shift. The guys continue to do an amazing job. So I'm just really happy for them. And I'm teaching with my company every now and then, probably once or twice a month. We just did a saw class today, which was awesome. Metal cutting saw. It's funny when we start talking to the students and like, hey, how many cuts did you do in fire 1 or fire 2 with the saw? And you get like the deer in the headlight look. It's not much. And
we watched a PowerPoint about it, and it had numbers, and it was real nice.
We covered that quickly. For a tool that can kill you, that is unforgiving, we don't give it enough time in the fire service, especially in call it standards, fire 1, whatever you want to call it. I don't think we do enough on that. So we developed a metal cutting saw class, sort of the step up from going from through the lock to conventional to ultra conventional. We're taking everything and cutting it off. So
respectful entry to disrespectful entry. We can do it all. John's a one-stop shop.
We are. The only thing I don't really teach is the conventional. I can do it. I can teach it. But I don't step on other people's toes with that stuff. I kick that work to somebody else. But no, but it's been good. How about you? How's the yard work coming along? What's the newest project out front?
Man, you talk about schedules, right? So 4896 is good for anything. It's good for yard projects because you don't have to finish them in a day. You could just leave it all jacked up and then come back to it. So I'm still battling builder grade irrigation. I got my tree growing out here in the front yard. We planted some flowers today. So Getting closer, man. Getting closer. It's cool.
It's always a work in progress. I got to head up to the cabin. I actually have Sean Egan and his wife. They're going to be renting out the cabin for Memorial Day weekend. Sean actually was sort of part of that incident that went down in Buffalo. He was working in the dispatch center. I want to say overtime. I'm not sure. I didn't get the full story on that, but he was working. He said it was pretty crazy, over and pretty quickly. But their dispatch was inundated, and he was really proud of the Buffalo guys and gals that busted their ass at that incident. So just one of those things to throw out there. It's crazy. You never know what kind of runs that we could go to in the next minute or two. Go ahead, Rob.
That station or the Tops is like, because we did an on tap event up there in Buffalo, and Sean had me stay at the firehouse, and the Tops
right there.
So seeing it was just kind of nuts, to say the least, for me, just because I know the location, know the people. It's just, it was weird.
Yeah, it's pretty sick, the evil that is out there.
Look, there was another one today where.
Yeah, I saw that in a church, I believe, right? I just saw that. Was that California?
It's sad. It's that often now, right? You're trying to. Which one was it? Was it California? Was it New York?
So here's something that I was looking at. And all right, Mark, hold on. What was tonight's topic of discussion? Because I think it might tie in.
Putting yourself out there.
Okay, so this may go there. Putting yourself out there. You start taking a look at some of the numbers of school and workplace shootings and everything like that. And you're looking at it. The last couple of years, it's been occurring about 50 to 53 times a year between a school shooting and a workplace shooting. So that's like once a week. The potential is out there. Are we really training for this? And that was one of the things that scared the hell out of me as a boss. I'm like, hey, what are we doing? Are the police department, what are they doing? They're going to be doing going in. What are we doing? What's our SOP? How are we going to handle this? I know one of my brothers from another department that's close by. They just got some ballistic helmets and vests. So, but there's a lot of stop the bleed classes and stuff like that. But how do you prep for something that your department might not teach you to do?
I think one of the things, you talk about like the topic being put yourself out there. Like, I don't talk about it very often, but one of the other, like, my side hustles, I'm a firearms instructor, and I teach the how to counter the mass shooter class from the USCCA, and the curriculum is very good. And the one thing I remind everybody is that the news is a news cycle, and it wants to report on things. The events are happening, but the likelihood is minimal. However, the profile of the event makes it so that we have to be prepared for it as a fire department. Like, I look at RIT scenarios and stuff like that, and like, the amount of firefighters that are getting killed in a building fire, right? Like that whole death on the nozzle kind of thing. Very, very minimal. Like, but we train for that scenario, and it's the same thing. Like, I know for us at work here in Fairview, where I work as a lieutenant, we have the rescue task force, we have the ballistic vests, the helmets, we call them the ass bags, but it's the active shooter sack that we carry with us with all the tourniquets and stuff like that. And the preparation part of it, whether your job is preparing for it or not, is, I always think that mental preparation is the key to getting yourself ready, because, if you don't mentally picture the scene that you're going to walk into, and it's pretty horrific, you're going to freeze, and you have to have some kind of, be it you create it in yourself in your head, or you take some creative ways to, I don't want to say harden yourself, but prepare yourself for what you're going to see and how you're going to act. You're going to be behind the eight ball. And that's always been one of my biggest fears with active shooters, is that, like, I know what these rounds do as a firearms instructor, and like, how am I going to hold myself? And you have to go through that mental preparation to get yourself prepared just for the incident, let alone the skill set to actually go in and work with your law enforcement agencies, be part of that team, and get your casualty collection point going, start to care while you're in that quote unquote warm zone. So
yeah, and it's not too many of us do see like mass casualty incidents.
Mm-hmm.
So how often are we looking at start triage? how often are we seeing some crazy shit? Yes, we see it maybe one or two, but that's not a mass casualty. It's not overwhelming our responses. And, getting yourself out there and putting it out there to get to these classes that your department might not get you to. One of the things that I told in my, I guess it was my going away party for my shift, and the guys did an amazing job, and the girls that were on my shift, and they went above and beyond. And it was really cool to feel the love of, my tour and my fellow department members that showed up. But I told them, I said, we got to get outside. And for me, my department is 3.2 square miles. Get outside that 3.2 square miles, invest in yourself. Because when you invest in yourself, you're going to make yourself better. You're going to make your department better. You're going to make whatever unit you're on, whether company to department, better just because you're taking additional training. Your 3.2 square miles will give you the basics. You've got to expand upon that. You got to get yourself out there. And again, I've always put myself to go to classes. I was always paying for it. Maybe I got comped a vacation day and I didn't have to burn a day. I got excused, but it's about paying it forward and doing it. I know Mark this past January, I offered him to go to ODP. I did for Chief Isaacson's class. But they've got a couple more classes coming up. I got one of my guys going to Water on Fire, and I got another guy that's going to go to HROC. So before the big show coming up in the end of February, or January into February of next year for Chief Ike. But again, you got to get comfortable with going to classes to learn things that we might not have to do, because we may have to do them one day.
I think what comes to mind for me here too, and this will kind of lead us into the topic, I think, is, I think what we're starting to learn is, for better or worse, the all hazards fire service is here, right? And I don't see it changing anytime soon. I'm not the biggest advocate for that model, but, I understand what reality is too. But I think at some point we're going to have to relook at that training, right? Because you can't train for the all hazards fire service 100% on duty, while running calls. And while I'm 100% an advocate of going to, conferences and putting yourself through training, that's all well and good. But when you talk about something like active shooter, you have to train with your guys. You have to be in sync. One person on the team knowing what to do is better than no people on the team, but it's not a team, right? It's still an individual. And so I think that's going to be a big thing going forward. And I also think, and I'm not trying to shit on the volunteers here. I'm only speaking for the career side, but on the career side, at what point do you have all these specialties that you can't pay somebody an entry-level salary anymore? The guys coming out of fire academies now, they have more than the average veteran firefighter had 30 years ago. And I get that it's changing, but at some point we're going to have to take a really hard look at what providing all these services means manpower wise, compensation wise and training wise. Cause I just don't see, the model of fire only or fire EMS only, continuing to work when you're basically a single everything department. So
yeah, I think you're hitting it out of the park on that. Think about what's going on with this world. Allegedly global warming in quotes, right? I'm doing the finger quotes. Think about the storms that we're coming up against. Yeah. We're hitting these water rescues. We're having these things that we haven't had for years. We're getting the flooding events. So again, I can go to that class. Mark, you can go to that class. Rob, you can go to that class. We're in 3 different departments. The 3 of us together as a company would work in cohesion perfectly. But now you become, or I become, or Rob becomes one of the guys that's got to start barking orders. Hey, do this, do this, do this, in order for things to go right, so things don't go sideways. And in these specialty events, things can go sideways in a heartbeat, which is sad, because again, that's what we do. It's part of our job. We have people that we're accountable for. We're all officers. Rob's lieutenant, Mark, you're a captain. Me, I just left as a tour commander, and I had 24 other people that I was responsible for. And if I showed up on a different incident, I was responsible for more, especially bringing in mutual aid or something else like that. I started going extra alarms, which was sort of commonplace for me. But it's, again, these special events, we have to train for. And you're right. You've got to get the people that you're going to be directly involved with and indirectly involved with on the same page. It's a tough call. And it's an uphill battle when we don't have the funding to get that done.
Yeah. And then again, to go back to it on the volunteer side, it's all you can do right now. I mean, again, I still volunteer. You know how hard it is for me to go do my 2 12-hour tours a month? Like, I was like, oh, that's nothing, and life gets in the way. But then you talk about, whether you're a career department or not, those calls still come in. You could argue that the volunteer departments actually see more of them in a lot of cases because of, their location or, the infrastructure, whatever. So how are the volunteers supposed to be proficient? They're trying to train on firefighting 2, 3, 4 hours a week as it is. It's a lot, man. And, I say it ties into our topic because I know what I'm saying. It's not popular. I know it's not popular with the administrative minded people. I know it's not popular with the politicians. And I don't say it because I'm, trying to be abrasive or, trying to, just be a dinosaur. I think at some point we really got to look at it and just, do we understand what we're asking of a 3, I don't even say 3, a 2, a 3 or 4 person engine company these days. I think it's just so far gone now that, hell, whatever, we'll figure it out, So anyway, I use that for the transition because, like I said, it's probably not popular. And so our whole point tonight of this conversation was meant to kind of talk to people about what it is to put yourself out there, whether it's as a writer, an instructor, a presenter, I mean, hell, a company officer, a chief officer in your department, right? Like anything that elevates you beyond the role of an entry-level firefighter, which again, not to degrade anybody like that, but anytime you take on more responsibility, it comes with a lot of challenges, right? And it comes with a lot of attention that, some people think, oh, that's cool to be in the spotlight, but it's really not what people think it is. So we wanted to take advantage of our experiences, right? And kind of go down that road. So I'm going to start there, John. I'm going to start with kind of the target it paints on you, right? Everything you say becomes put under a microscope. And, there comes a point in time where, you could argue that people think that you're out there because you think you're better than everybody else or you're some kind of expert. And I don't know. I'll let you speak to how you got into this mess of teaching and traveling and stuff. But I know for me, it was never my intent. It was all, Sean jokes with me now with my Bob Ross fame, but it was all a happy accident. It was one little move led to another. And next thing you know, I'm standing in front of a group of people at freaking Firehouse Expo trying to figure out how I got there, So what do you think?
So, I think it all starts with after you get through Fire 1 and you're looking at like, hey, what would feed me? And it not for the personal aspect, but like, what can I do for the fire service? And that's one of the things I challenged the guys at when I at my retirement dinner. I'm like, you got to give back. You've got to give back to the fire service. Make it better than when you entered. And that was always, for some reason, my big thing. When I was going through Fire 1, I looked up to my instructors. I was going through a volunteer academy out in Morris County back in '93. And I looked at these guys. A couple of these guys were career. A couple of these guys were volunteer. And I'm looking at them going, maybe someday, I always enjoyed teaching and getting the information out there. And one of the best things for me for teaching, and, unfortunately we only have, besides Rob, we got Jeff and Eric on. I wish we had more people tonight, but it's about learning. And, it goes back to that old adage, and my numbers are going to be off. You read something, you retain 10%, you read it, you write it. Maybe it's about 25 to 30. You read, write, do, you jump to 50 to 75. Then you do read, write, do, and teach. That's almost 85% retention of doing that. So that's where it helped me out. I love teaching. I like sharing it. I love getting the aha moment from students, but it helped me out so much in my testing process. For lieutenant and captain, I was always in the Fire One books because I was teaching at one of my local volunteer academy or the career academy up at close to work. And by being in the books as much as I was, that helped me to do a couple different things. It gave me the information because I knew the book in and out. My essentials book grew from like 2 inches thick to almost 3.5 because I was putting tabs and everything else in there. There's a good friend of mine who is the chief of the department in Clifton, Frankie Prezioso. His book grew to almost like 3 inches and almost 4. It doubled in size because he was putting notes and we were watching as we were taking that the testing process. So with that, just being able to get the information, understand it better, and then pass it back on was huge to me. And I always emulated my instructors. I had really good instructors that motivated me to be someday, hey, I want to be an instructor. I want to pass this on. And then I guess I became comfortable enough in my skin that I said, hey, maybe I could try this on a larger scale, get this outside of just my department or just the academy and put in for FDIC or put in for Firehouse. And I was fortunate enough to get picked up at Firehouse for 2 years. And now I'm getting picked up for a third year, which is nice. 2020 really wasn't a year, but I still got selected, so I count it. I'm gonna try and put in for FDIC. I think I got a good program that I've been submitting, but just never got picked up. So, I'm really happy with Peter and what they've done for me at Firehouse, and it is what it is. But again, just trying to pass the information on. Like today, we were teaching our metal saw class and it's great because you don't get the reps that you do in the academy. The academy doesn't give you the reps that you need. Here's the saw, rev it up, drop it into maybe a piece of wood, but we don't do metal cutting. And that saw, K12, or the funny part is I call the battery operated ones the K6. It's half the size, and it's great for forcible entry. Guy, Rob's chuckling. But again, I call it the K6. That was that's a great lock cutting or bolt cutting or whatever tool that we were using that just showed up into the fire service, and now we're starting to use them, whether it's the DeWalt, the Steel, the Milwaukee, or whatever. I prefer the DeWalt. If DeWalt reps are listening tonight, please, I love that saw. Send me over one. We'll do a couple of wear test sets on them. We'll
take care of John Hayowick.
Exactly. Beyond the Basics fire training.
Well, it's funny, man. It kind of hit me when you were talking about it with, your instructors and the academy and stuff. And I never really traced it back to that. But I think if you really think about it and you look at the people that do put themselves out there, again, whether it's in their department or in the fire service as a whole, these are the people that were helping their classmates, even when they didn't know anything, beyond, right? It was, hey, I figured this knot out. Let me try to help you, right? Or I see you had trouble with that door force. I'm no expert, but I got it to work. So let me help you, right?
This works for me.
Exactly. And let's find out what worked. But they didn't have any kind of formal responsibility to do that, right? It's in their character. And so then they go get on the line somewhere, and these are the people that weren't content with the recliner, right? They were out going through the rig, messing with stuff, annoying the hell out of the senior guy and the company officers with questions, right? But it should be no surprise that these are the people. But there's some kind of weird phenomenon that, we tolerate these people. And I say tolerate because it depends, how they're taken. And then all of a sudden, once you decide, especially if you decide to go outside your department, all of a sudden it's a problem. And it's the weirdest thing to me how we do that to people. And I understand the whole you can't be a prophet in your own land thing. But if you think about it, the number of people you and I have met in our travels, right? And they all have the same problem. These are some heavy hitting, stupidly intelligent, experienced, really, really squared away firefighters who have trouble telling people in their own department how to be better. And what a fucking shame. I mean, people are paying hundreds, sometimes thousands of dollars to bring these people to their departments. And when they go home, they're shit on. Right. And it's always baffled me about the fire service, man. I don't know. You got any thoughts on that? I can't grasp.
I'm going to throw this out there. The fire, and here it goes. We have instructors that don't like other instructors. Believe that or not?
Ooh. I have that down my list. So yeah, we could go there now. That's fine. It's
crazy the amount of guys. And I don't know if it's jealousy or what the deal is, but certain instructors don't like other instructors. And, whether it's you rubbed them wrong or, I'll go down that road. I got accused of taking some, I don't even know how I call it.
Material.
Yes. But the interesting part was the material that I was accused of taking, I gave it to that person. So I didn't understand how, if I took it, how did I give it to him in the first place? Willing again, because that's part of my nature of, hey, you're interested in this. And, we'll talk about, it's just about locks, no real name on it. But, and I just gave information like, hey, this is what I do. This is what I teach. This is how I do stuff. Because there's another avenue for somebody else in the fire service to get that information. And then they've got other instructors that are like, oh, hey, that's mine. Well, okay. Did anybody go back and say that to, let's say, who wrote that big blue book? That's I'm just drawing a big blank right now.
What are you talking about?
Clark.
Building?
Clark. No. Clark's Principles and Practices.
I
had to look up. There's Clark, and then there's nothing new in the fire service. Their technology changes, which is great because there's guys that are knocking it out of the park with thermal imaging cameras and stuff like that. I'll throw Andy Starnes right out there. His Insight training is doing an amazing job for staying up with the current thermography and stuff like that's going on with the thermal imaging training through the different companies that are out there and what they're doing with each different type of thermal imaging camera and breaking it down on how it's used and everything else. But again, we have jealousy within the ranks. I'd rather work together. One of the things that I'll say is we talked about it, I think, before we started recording. I sort of stay in my lane. Like I teach a little through the lock stuff. Now I'm teaching some saw stuff. But if somebody says, hey, can you come teach me forcible entry? I'm like, hey, I don't got the door. Some other guys, like I'll give, revolutionary fire tactics. I'll throw Stevie Jason and Mike, guys that are from the area and that are part of my Fools, my Fools chapter. I'll throw them the bone on, hey, go to these guys. They're local. They'll do a good job. But I stay in my lane of what I like teaching and stuff like that. There's some guys that jump all over the place. But again, some people lose sight of what we're here for.
I just want to jump in real quick.
Go ahead, Rob.
Mark,
from National Fire Radio.
On Mark saying about stepping up and getting the target paint on your back, I think that's a real thing, right? And I get it all the time. Jeremy gets it. And one of the things that when we started National Fire Radio, we realized, because I said to him one day, I was like, listen, man, I don't work in the South Bronx. I've never been to Detroit. As far as up riding the back step, right? Who are we? And it's why we wanted to talk about tradition and culture. But as long as we're 100% authentic in who we are, we're going to win every time, because I work tonight and there's 2 ambulances out there and they're the busiest pieces of equipment in my fire station. I'm a smells, bells, and people who fell firefighter. But as long as you're completely authentic, the target on your back shouldn't matter, because people can throw shade at you. But if you're not, putting yourself out there as something that you're not, you're gonna be in the right 100% of the time. Now, is it gonna suck that people are assholes and they're gonna say, bad things? 100%. But I always go to that whole be authentic and be who you are, because if you're not authentic and you're not who you are, everybody's gonna smell that out immediately. And every one of us has seen a really shitty firefighter salesman come along and be like, I got a nozzle that can shoot around the corner of a, well-involved room fire. And you're just like, what? And it's like, they got snake oil and they're going to sell it. And then the other thing as far as the instructors go, and instructors hating on each other or maybe not working together, there's always a friction there. And I think the friction comes from the inability of instructors to understand the market that they're in. All right. The market that we're in is teaching other firefighters, and the market is going to drive as far as the customers, the firefighters, the students are going to drive what we do. And oftentimes we see people become very, very popular, or they're very effective at running their training companies and stuff like that, because they're delivering what the students want, which is really, I think, passion. And, and obviously, like, nobody's signing up to take the hazmat class, right? Like, Bobby Halton's not at FDIC selling out, hot training for doing level A hazmat stuff, right? Like, nobody wants to do that.
And it's not sexy.
Right. But it comes.
Those are my classes, the not sexy classes.
Yeah. But
that's my problem. I think you just hit it, Rob. I got to find some sexier shit to try and teach.
But like, the other thing is, it's passion, and people are passionate about teaching, and you win every time when you have a passionate instructor. And I've watched a lot of instructors come out and do training in the last, what has it been, 3 or 4 years that we've been doing National Fire Radio. And it's been amazing to watch them, because you can see the passion that they have for the craft. And then there's those who are about it for money, and money comes in the business. And I'm not saying that's not right, but you can clearly tell the people who are trying to make the bottom line work versus the people who are making money. And that's typically where I see the friction come from, is because all of a sudden they don't have that passion, and they're not in it for the job, and they're not here to make the fire service better. They're here to make money off of the fire service. And that's typically where I've seen a lot of the bad juju come out, if you will. Like, that's where the friction is. And people, like, I absolutely hate seeing that in the American Fire Service, because everybody's got something to bring to the table. And don't get me wrong, like, we can talk about vetting instructors and stuff like that, but I'm not a gunfighter, right? Like, I'm not the Navy SEALs. I mean, you guys saw me stand up before we started recording. You can clearly tell from my physique that I'm not, a war fighter by any means, but I'm very good at teaching people how to take a pistol out of their holster and shoot a paper plate at 21 feet. But I also recognize where my lane is in that. And I think there's a lot of people out there who also do some fraudulent shit. And we have to find that balance in the fire service, where we're working together to be like, hey man, either we call them out, or maybe even better, like, we try to mentor some of them. Some of them are going to be unmentorable. They're going to think they know everything, and they're going to try to, it's going to be dangerous, but there's a huge balance in all of that.
Man, so let me jump, John.
All right, go ahead. Go on. I'm writing notes. Go ahead.
You got me going crazy right now. So, man, so much truth to everything you just said, right? And I just want to piggyback off a couple things with it. One, I think a lot of it is the competitiveness, right? Because, when you start getting into these conferences and stuff, a lot of it becomes a popularity contest, and you don't have to be the only guy who got we regret to inform you letter on Facebook to be jealous of everybody else that gets to go, right? That's human nature. Everybody wants to be picked, but the reality is you won't be every time. And so you get that competitive status thing going on, and all of a sudden it's, John wasn't at Firehouse, so he's not in with the in crowd anymore. He's not cool. But, I think what you really hit on with the business side, right? I've probably lost more money than I've ever made teaching, because I either give it back, or I donate it, or I buy more beer than I should, with all the new friends I made, kind of thing. And I don't charge a lot anyway, right? And, I never would even dream that you could charge. I had to have people that mentor me to explain to me that, like, hey, all the hours you spent at home developing this program, and all the hours you spend away from your family, that's worth something to you. And Nozzle Forward was one of the first classes I ever took, like, on the national level. And, like, a lot of what Aaron Fields does stuck with me, right? Like, I charge an overtime right now for the days that I'm gone, because those are days I could be at work, and that's a fair price, right? And I'm still cheaper than a lot of people, because I work in the fucking Southeast, right? The cost of living is cheaper, but it's fair, and the other thing he always talked about was, giving credit and stuff. And I think that's cool. And this is what I thought of, you know, kind of what you were saying with all these people. You know, I realized early on that, you know, this is a 15 minutes thing, right? I've got my 15 minutes, and my 15 minutes may last 15 years or it may last 15 minutes, but this doesn't define me, right? It accentuates who I am as a person. And in reality, I'm stealing every time I teach because I'm going to classes and I'm meeting people and I'm making my circle bigger, my knowledge base bigger. But what I had to think about with Aaron Fields' thing with credibility is that, you know, he compares it kind of like to science, right? And they're real big on like quoting people and references after the material. And that's all well and good, but that's really hard to do in a hands-on kind of PowerPointy thing. Or, you know, when you've met so many people, like, I don't know, Rob, you could say something tonight and I'm not going to remember you said it an hour later because I'm a fireman with dementia, you know, like everybody else. But there's a strong possibility, and this is where I laugh at people, because as many things as I've done, as many things that John has done, if you go to any fire department USA and drop our names, somebody's going to look at you like you're stupid. They have no clue who we are. And so to say that two people in the fire service from different parts of the world can't have the same idea without one stealing from the other is fucking ludicrous. But again, that's the jealousy thing there. So I just, you know, I the whole point of having this episode tonight to me was that for people who are out there doing it, you're right, like we're going through it with you, but mainly for people who go to these things and go to classes and don't know the outside looking in, like, understand the realities of it, right? There's no celebrity going on here, right? I'm like you, Rob. Like, I don't work for FDNY, but I learned early on traveling and talking to people, like, a lot of your heavy hitting, really smart people are from a place you've never heard of and would never apply to, right? But they're still smart. So who cares?
Yeah. And plus, like, I've always looked at it from the aspect of, I could go, like, we had Ray McCormick up at the firehouse here a couple of weeks ago. He dropped off some 2.5 and some 2-inch hoses. We're reworking our high-rise packs after I went to ODP this past January. I got to sit through Dave McGrail's class, and
phenomenal class.
Like, yes, by all means, if anybody's out there, plug the Isaacson and County Fire Tactics. Go check them out and the cadre they get for that. But like, Ray was able to give us the knowledge we needed to bridge the gap about where guys couldn't quite understand why we were going to switch, why we're considering switching to a 2.5 and 2-inch or the Super 2 from Mercedes, whatever it might be, right? And like, I was that guy who went to a training class and came back and, I get this is your national fire radio, bullshit is what I get. And I'm like, guys, this is not it. Like, here's the facts. Like, here's the stuff.
Mark's rolling his eyes. I love that. I understand it. I totally get it.
And I'm like, it's not. Like,
sorry, Martin, Robert.
No, it's okay. I'm like, this is not the podcast, guys. This is not the social media stuff. This is like legit. Like, look at we can test it out this way. And like, it was perfect because Ray came in and gave our guys, 3 hours of how to make this happen, and it worked. Now, I wouldn't use Ray to talk about going to a working house fire with me and a driver on the engine and 2 firefighters in the ladder truck that's a Quint behind me, and how we're going to make that work for the first 10 to 15 minutes until the city of Poughkeepsie gets there with another 3 and all the incoming units come in that 15 to 20 minute period, because that's not that was not his. It's not his forte, right? Same thing with you, John. Like, even Passaic, like you had companies, like your staffing was probably better than I can guarantee it was better than mine. So I know enough about Passaic now, but like, but like a guy like from the city of Newburgh or the city of Poughkeepsie, where they're running with low manpower, or out by me, the LaGrange Fire District, that, career department with like 6 or 7 guys on it the most. And they have tankers that they're bringing because they have no municipal water system. Like, there's no book on that. So like, those are the people that you want to also like mentor yourself with, and you get to meet them. And so I feel like I rambled there, so I apologize.
No. But that goes right to it. Like you said, you had Ray come in for your high rises. We at work, we looked to Turpak. We looked to Chief Turpak at Jersey City. And when I first got on the job, and probably for the first 15 years or so, we were running 1 3/4 with a breakaway nozzle. So you still had a fog at the end. And if it got bad, you broke it away in the hallway. Holy crap. We got lucky. And three of us or four of us went to Chief Turpak's high-rise class in Jersey City. We got invited and we sat through it and we did a full change. We went to the 2-inch line. Actually, we did a 2.5 down to the inline pressure gauge to the 2-inch line going out. And what a difference too. I think we're at 1.25 inch tip. And again, as a truck guy, I'm not going to know the tips, but again, we got away from potentially having a fog nozzle at the end of it, and it worked. We got the proper flows and everything else that was down the line. And again, I might go to Mike for 2.5 story frame, but again, Jersey City's got 4 guys on an engine, 4 guys on a truck. For sake, we're running driver, officer, and 1. I'm not looking across the river at what their engine companies do, but I look at the fact that they team 2 engine companies up sometimes to get that first line into play. That is huge. When I start looking at like, holy crap, they got 10 guys. All right, I'll take 2 chauffeurs out. They got 8 guys to get that first line into play between fire and life. Me taking 2 companies, especially as a tour commander, assigning the first 2 engine companies, get that line in to get the fast water on the fire, because fast water wins. When you get water on the fire, your problems tend to go away. So, Norman wrote about that. Well, everybody wrote about that. And that was one of the biggest takeaways for me. Going back to the instructor thing before, and Mark's right. Yeah, I was always underpricing myself with things, but I priced myself to teach, because if I knew there was a department that was struggling for funds and stuff like that, hey, I'm coming in, whatever it is, covering me. I'd go deep into my pocket to bring another instructor in with me if I had to. But that's part of the love for the job and passing that on. And you can't pass up the passion for the job.
Yeah.
Because that's what it's about. It's about getting the knowledge out there to make it safer for everybody else. Because you can't work hard enough or study long enough for a job that can kill you. Put it straight out there. The things that we're seeing and doing, from the specialty rescues of active shooters to swiftwater rescue to fires in a basement to a fire in a dilapidated building, which could collapse on you or flash or whatever else. You can't study hard enough, can't train hard enough to prevent that stuff. And you gotta do as much as you can to prevent it. And again, you're going to be a target, because being somebody in your own department, hey, why is this guy getting the overtime? Why is this guy getting the overtime? Because he's teaching 3 out of 4 shifts off duty, and then he's teaching his own guys. And one of the best things for me that I've ever seen is coming down to a house, and these guys are on their 3rd drill of the day. I'm like, that makes me smile and beam. I'm like, and I just want to be part of it. I'm like, hey guys, what are you talking about? Like, let me sit back. Let me throw a nugget here or 2, or maybe I'll learn something. And that's one of the things, like if I'm teaching at a class, I'm like, listen, I learn every time I teach, whether it's a fact, a nugget, or it's an interpersonal skill or a different way to teach something. I'm always learning. And when you stop learning, time to get out. And I'm not ready to get out. I'm here to continue to teach and continue to learn. So, but being a target is tough, because sometimes you're gonna learn things, and you're gonna try and pass that on. That's against the traditions, the old school way. We never do it that way. We always do it this way. When the words always and never come into play, that's sort of a trigger for me. And I'm like, hey, you have to have something in your back pocket. You have to have plans A, B, C, and D in your back pocket, because you never know what's going to happen or what's going to go sideways.
Did you ever wonder, like, if you were to take like an alias and just be like, hey, like, I'm John Wayne, I worked at, engine 185 in Brooklyn for 90 years, and I'm here to talk to you about short staffing for the fire service. Like, did you like just to see if people would hang and like listen, you know what I mean? Or if they would leave or, oh, this guy has so much credibility because they know nothing about you, but you get these department names and these companies, right? And these training companies, these people, and you have all this instant credibility. But, then it's like, hey, I'm Rob and we have two people on trial. It's like, shut up, Rob. You don't know nothing about firefighting. It's like, okay, I do a pretty successful thing on the side too, but, fuck me, right? Whatever. So I just get a kick about how we prejudge things sometimes and how we let all this clout come because somebody works somewhere. And, I bring it up in my class all the time. I took it was like a machinery rescue class, I think in Florida one year and part of HROC, I believe. And there was a guy from New York City there and we got, sidebar and I'm like, man, like grew up in New York. I'd really wish I had gone and tried to apply, but that ship says like, man, like, in reality, we envy the guys in the smaller departments. He's like, I'm on a crew of like 5 dudes on this engine, and the only people that work are the probie and the officer. The rest of us are professional hose movers. The officer says move it here, we move it there. The probie gets to squirt water, and then we move it back to the truck. He's like, you're needing to do all this stuff with a 2 and 3 man company that we'll never get to do. And I was like, man, it's so weird that somebody from probably the most prestigious fire department, on the planet is envious of guys in the smaller department. It's all about perspective, man. It's nuts.
Go ahead, Rob.
I also think that we eat the young, so to speak, when it comes to the training circles, because, like Jeremy and I have had this discussion before, and like, we really want to start tapping into this rural firefighting and the suburban firefighting environment because there's so much talent that's out there. And I use this department next door to me, LaGrange. They're a prime example of this. They're a combination department that doesn't have a lot of volunteer supplement, and they're showing up to a house fire with 2 engines and 2 tankers and a handful of people, and they're making this thing happen and they're making it work because they have no choice. But if we put that down on pen to paper and we put it out there as an article or as a class, like they would get crucified by the folks that are out there eating the young and being like, this is and that's the one thing I think we really need. And we see it. And I say I can this with confidence because we see this with National Fire Radio with the apparatus innovations. Well, the whole purpose of apparatus innovations was to show the fire service, hey, here's a truck from California and this is what they're doing. Here's a truck from Iowa. Electric. This is what they're doing. Like here's a truck from the Atlanta, Georgia area, and this is what it's doing. And like people just are very comfortable
getting mad at you. They get mad at you. Like, how could you post this? Like, it's not mine, bro.
Like the best thing I think I ever did in my, I shouldn't say that, but like one of the most amusing things I ever did was Dave Woodward from Revolutionary Fire Tactics at the lake sent me a picture of their engine with the deck gun with a blitz fire or a portable monitor
on the side discharge, right?
Yep.
That's amazing. And I shared that with my guys.
And like he explained the whole process behind it, especially with their first due strip area in the Lake of the Ozarks with like, you got this, 1 story up here, but then it goes down like 6 to the lake and it's a commercial occupancy and you're going to need this water flow, but you can't get it with a deck gun. And if like, they just got their mid-mount tower. So like that really wasn't an option for them at that point. And the amount of hate I loved it. I'm like, what other things can we get that really piss these people off? Because they're driving content up, but like, it's a tactic that I thought just was like I don't want to say
it's outside the box.
Right. And then we get a message from a LA County engine company. They're like, hey, we've used this before too. Like,
okay, good for you. You didn't post it though.
but like they sent in like, please post this because like we see the hate that's coming out. Like, and that was the one.
Oh, okay, I get it now.
The brother was like, hey, like there's a lot of people who are in this who are piling onto this idea of how much it's a bad idea. And
I don't understand why it would be a bad idea. Even look at the 11 alarm job that I had. If I had the capability of sticking that on and just flowing water into that building to keep it from getting to the 3 acre building that had 52 tons of chlorine, I would have done anything. But again, that comes back to the amount of water that you got and being able to think outside the box. Why we stick a nozzle on the side and create a quick decon or a rehab area to cool a fireman down in the summertime potentially maybe not as much of Jersey as Mark in the South, or the guys down in Florida that, if I became a fireman in Florida, I'd become a puddle of mush.
I'd be so skinny because I'd sweat all the fat away. It'd be great.
I sweat in a blizzard. I can't imagine dealing with
get hydrated. It's just not possible. You can't hold that much water in your body to get hydrated. It's just you're in a constant state of dehydration. Period.
But again, it's just the interesting part of it that they threw a master stream on the side for reach and penetration for something that they didn't have before, and that's innovation. That's thinking outside the box. And people are like, you can't do that. Well, hey, we did, and it worked. So guess what? Go pound salt.
I even checked with the manufacturers, and they're like, yeah, we checked the axial load. It's good. Like,
okay.
They tried to, like, a closet engineer tried to come out like a.
So all right, I'll go the other route. Oh, we do fly in, throwing ladders. Well, fly in. Okay. Yeah. There's a little bit take back, but fly out's the normal way, bed in. But again, it's something that's different that was done and it worked in the situation that was there. Do we always climb with the fly in? No, normally we do fly out, bed in, but again, it works, and it worked in that situation. And if we had to do it again, we could do it again, because you go and check to see, oh yeah, manufacturer says it loses, please don't quote me because I'm not going to know, 15% of its strength with the fly being in.
You're wrong. Fraud. You're a fraud.
There it is.
Crucify him. Don't book him. He's horrible. He doesn't even know his own ladder.
Oh my God. But again, it's funny. So Amy and I were watching a video, and there was a red paint in the middle. I said, you see that? She's like, what's that? I'm like, that's the balance point. I'm like, somebody understands this. She goes, why is it a balance point? I said, because one person's deploying this thing. I said, one guy's carrying it with probably tools loaded up, and he's carrying it, or she's carrying it to the rear, the side, wherever. But that's a one-person thing. That balance point is huge.
So, Rob, you kind of hit on something I didn't even think to take it there, but talk about a department trying to put themselves out there, right? And it's kind of what you're talking about with the apparatus. So I was watching a video earlier. I don't know how it ends up in my newsfeed, but it does. So it's some fire department, and they're showing how they test hydrants, right? And they've got a flow meter, and it goes on the end cap, and it's yada, 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 whatever. And, you get in the comments and, oh my God, water hammer this, and you're breaking water main. And I'm like, how the fuck? From a 30-second clip, have you figured out how these guys are single-handedly taking out
their water system?
Yeah, and they were putting something on the thread, and the guy's like, oh, contaminating your whole water supply. And I'm just like, man, like, I used to have a hard time understanding why fire departments are so like passive when it comes to social media and helmet cams and dash cams and sharing things. But like, I'm starting to get it. And the sad part is, it's not citizens that are making these comments. It's other firemen, probably mutual aid firemen that run with these guys that are hiding behind their computer and like, oh, they're idiots. Like, and you're sitting in your recliner at work talking about how everybody else sucks while you've done nothing.
Go ahead, Rob.
If we wanted to fix that problem in the American Fire Service, we can. We have the capabilities. We have the resources. It's just a matter of us getting the NFPA to get moms to kick these guys out of their basements. and then we would like the fire service would be moving ahead in an aggressive manner that is good for the citizens and good for the fire department. And
it's great.
I think we have a sighting.
Duffy's here.
Showing Duffy sighting
now.
There
he likes to talk about fire stuff, fire and fire accessories.
I sell propane and propane accessories.
That makes you an arsonist.
Why does he look like Obi-Wan from was that Empire Strikes Back?
Yeah, you look like you like scanned a photocopy of a photocopy for some reason.
Yeah. It's to make my skin look nice and smooth.
Oh yeah, because you get a lot of sun in Michigan. Come on, I was in Florida, bro.
Oh gosh, man,
I turned red.
I miss the sunshine.
It's all good. How you been, bro?
Oh, busy, man. I just got off a meeting for this for the Great Lakes Hot Conference, so
I'll just plug that.
Yeah, well, yeah, it's a lot to do, man. I will tell anybody if they want to take on the project of doing a fire conference, then have at it, but be prepared to be stressed every day.
Well, you can de-stress with us and share all your worries. So we've talked about pretty much all of our experiences and all the shitty people out there that make putting yourself, your ideas, your fire department out there so amazingly rewarding. So your turn to plug in, sir. What do you got?
Oh, about putting yourself out there. Be cautious that you're going to be misunderstood a lot. Unfortunately, it's whether somebody takes it as aggression or they're just not sure to handle it. There's positives, there's negatives, but it's regardless of either one of those two. I think it's worth it. If you care about this profession or the people you work with, any shred of you, like, you have to do that. It's not going to fix itself, and obviously some of the things that we fight for and we're very passionate about, we might not even see any change in the remainder of our career on that front. But I guarantee you at some point you will see a version of change that you were fighting for. And that's to me anyway, what makes it worth it. And, the frustrating part is because we're all so passionate. We want to do these things. And I think we tend to take on more than we can handle at times. And that adds to the stress. And when we're not getting anywhere, maybe it's time we take a step back and realize, like, okay, am I focusing on too large of a project instead of like small things in progression leading up to that bigger change? What's going on? And I don't know. I don't have the answers. Certainly, I have a lot of experiences, and I know that I've worked with a lot of people that did not like me for the things that I fought for, and I just had to be okay with that, because I'll be damned if I'm going to go through my career and just kind of bow down to what I don't believe in, especially when I know that things could always be better and improve, and people get comfortable. I'm not that person. I don't like to be comfortable. I like to always kind of keep pushing to the next step. So, a lot of that friction that you'll face is probably from people that are just nervous of change and they don't want to see that happen. So, you're going to have to find a way to get them on board, or, just be okay with the fact that you're not going to change everybody and focus on what you can impact.
I think you came at a good time, dude, because, I won't say we were bitchy, right? But we were certainly on the complaining side of putting yourself out there. But I think you brought us to a great transition, which is all the wonderful things that come from it, right? And I can't express how fortunate I've been personally to just meet the people that I've met, right? The people that advocated for me to take that step, the people that kind of, pushed me out there against my will a little bit. But I've been to places that I never would have been in my life if I had not done this, right? I've met some of the best friends in my life by traveling around and doing this. And then I can honestly tell you, there's nothing more rewarding to me than having somebody come up to you after a class and just say, like, hey, like, you just changed my career, or to write you a message afterwards and, hey, we got this from your class, from your guidance, from our talk after your class, and this is what happened in my fire department. Or they share something that you wrote, whether it's an article or a Facebook post or whatever, and they're sharing it like currently, like, hey, this sums up everything. Finally, somebody to just take this burden off my shoulder I couldn't articulate, or to like, hey man, look how far we've come. And so I think, like Sean said, right, it's so worth it. It's so worth it. And if there's anybody out there that happens to stumble across this, that's ever been on the fence, like, submit it.
Keep doing what you're doing.
Submit.
Keep pushing that. What is that? 10%, 10 PSI, 100% of the time. Keep pushing that needle. Keep pushing forward. You're going to be a target. Look, Paul Combs drew that amazing illustration about that firefighter being a target, and you know what? He's spot on. I've got his books, and we joke about certain things in the fire service, but he's spot on with his cartoons and everything else. But being the target, you might take it off of from somebody else, that's trying to up and come. You might assume that, sometimes it's our own people within our departments that create the most problems for us, because it's either jealousy or a lot of times it's jealousy. I'm going to go with that, or they don't agree with what you're trying to do because they don't have the education that potentially that you've had. You know, doing certain tactics or changing a way of doing something is always going to cause problems. Firefighters don't like change. How many times can we say that? But again, if you're able to push the envelope and get that change done, nothing's better than at a class. And I was teaching down in Florida, was it last year? And I was teaching my through the lock class, and I had the one lieutenant come back and said, "Hey, 2:00 in the morning, we were able to get into this little old lady's house because she fell, and we went through the lock and we were able to resecure it, and we didn't do any damage. She's got to buy a new doorknob, but that's it." That was so fulfilling for me, and I'll be a target every day because of what I teach and how I teach. Just to get that message across, to get that customer service base. The classes I teach are basically customer service based, about how to do the least amount of damage, progression of damage for through the lock, or handling alarms, or whatever, any of the classes that I do. But it's important to know it's okay to be the target. A lot of us have been around long enough that we have broad enough shoulders to take the hit and then to keep moving because we understand where the hit's coming from. But it's having friends like Sean and Mark and Rob, and Eric, who's one of our national our advocates for the National Fallen Firefighters Foundation, that build you back up and say, "Hey man, it's okay. Keep going. Keep doing what you're doing," because there's times that you're going to get down because you're taking these hits, but you start looking at what Sean's doing and what Mark's doing and what Rob and Jeremy are doing, and Eric passing the message along from what the National Fallen Firefighters Foundation is doing. That's where it is. There's strength in numbers. So keep pushing and keep the pressure on, because the mutts are always going to be there. I think there's a line, and I'm going to kill it. The lion shouldn't lose sleep over the voice of the sheep.
Man, I can tell you're retired. You're getting in all these like old school, like paradigm, like, this ancient Chinese saying.
No, don't let him fool you. He just read that on a fortune cookie.
Oh, it's right here.
He's got
Right?
Amy holding up cue cards over there.
Third moon of the sun will never let you down.
Oh, that's great.
Come on.
So I
I can have natural thoughts, guys. I don't have to have Amy prompting me, even though she's really smart.
I think one of the other things too, like when you go put yourself out there, but whether it be a class, you're taking the lead at the station as a junior guy who's trying to improve the department because you know what the potential is. Like there's always like that official mentor of asking somebody and saying like, "Hey, can you help? Like, can you guide me through this process?" And then there's the unofficial mentors, but have a list of people. I don't want to say in your corner, but like people that you can rely on to bounce the ideas off of, because like there's going to be that time where you have to have that introspective look at yourself. Hey, did I screw this up? Like comedians bomb all the time, right? Like they weren't just, there's a little bit of talent there, but it's a craft that they work at just like firefighters. So you have to have that balance. I know that like anybody that's here, I can call them up and be like, "Hey, did we get this right or did we get this wrong?" And if we get it wrong, that's okay. Cause one, we're human. And two, like we can, Dave Statter talks about it all the time, right? Like where do government agencies mess up? They don't get in front of the camera and say, "Hey, we screwed this one up, guys." Like instead we try to do a cover up, we try to beat around the bush or whatever it is. But like you're so much, if you have gratitude and humility, you're going to win. So a back pocket skill is always have some people you can bounce ideas off of because like it'll come, the hate can come quick, but you got to have some people there to help you help propel it and make sure that you're on the right path.
Rob, you're 100% correct. Having guys in your corner, and again, not from your department, is probably the most important thing. Maybe having one or two guys that understand what's going on in your department, and a lot of times that's a retired guy that was either equal rank or higher. But I know I've got 8 guys or 9 guys that I converse with in a group, and we call them our board of directors. We're all responsible for each other, and I know if something goes sideways with me or one of the other guys, I'm either hopping in the car, hopping in the plane, or we're making phone calls and like, hey, what's going on? Hey, what's going, and just being able to have that conversation. Hey, this just went sideways at work. How do I correct this? How do I handle this? And Sean just put that up in, and I'm going to jump on that. It says, not everything has to be your idea. Let others take what you are fighting for and run with the ball. Who cares who gets the credit? You're absolutely right. Share it, build somebody up. If you've got somebody that's underneath you that has a great idea, let them run with it. Keep them safe. That's the whole thing. Create the environment for the junior guys to come up and start with their ideas. Because if they're always getting shut down, guess what? They're never going to step up.
Well, especially as you start moving up, right? You have enough shit to do. Let somebody else take something, right? Like there are plenty of things to do as you take on more official responsibilities. It's okay. Like you don't have to be the man every time.
Yeah, for sure.
Great point.
Yeah, no, and that just comes from personal experience, in a previous department I worked for, we just happened to be doing search training that day. And the senior guy was like, hey man, like that was awesome. Where'd you learn that? You should show everybody. And I just straight up told him, I was like, listen, I'm nobody. All right. You were part of the training. Why don't you take it and you run with it? You've got 8-9 years on the job here. I'm still new in this department. Right. So if you have any questions, feel free to contact me, like reach out, like I'll help you through it. We'll talk about it or whatever, but it doesn't need to be me. I don't need to always be the one coming up and saying, hey guys, we should do this, or why don't we do this? Or, everybody is good at something and everybody has knowledge in areas where maybe we don't. So when we're talking about collectively making a shift, right, and focusing our efforts on things that are going to make us better, that is a team dynamic, right? That can't happen just because one or two people are really smart or they have a lot of skills in this area. That's all about sharing. And you'll see when you empower those people like who are interested and you say, okay, here's what I know, make it better, run with it, do your thing, and let it be your idea. People will start paying attention that it's not just one guy all of a sudden or one girl kind of like picking at stuff. It's multiple people. And in that aspect, it's like, well, shit, I got so much engagement from people that work here that people take notice of that, and I found that to be a good approach, no matter what the issue is. Just find out what somebody's really passionate about, what they really like. If they reach out to you and they want improvement, give them the tools that they need, but let them do it. You don't always got to have your hand in that pie.
So this kind of reminded me of something I meant to bring up earlier, but John, this one's kind of be directed at you, I guess, a little bit. But, I think something we miss with putting yourself out there too is like, to me, there's no better time than retirement to do it because there's no more department, right, that's sitting there, throwing darts at you, right? The politics are kind of out of it. And I wish we had more retired guys out there, especially on the national circuit, like downloading all this information they have from a career because you have a sweet spot, right? You probably got 5, maybe 10 years after you come off the line where you're still really, really applicable. Like your experiences are still there. But I think it's great for the guys that are still at work to be doing it. But I just feel like, even though I haven't experienced it, I feel like there's a lot more freedom there as a retiree to kind of say what you want, say it how it is, and kind of push people in the right direction.
No, I do agree with that. Staying relevant is one of the biggest things that I'm looking at as retiring. So I'm always, again, continuing to go to classes. I just came back from Command Officers Boot Camp down in Pensacola by Chief Isaacson, the County Fire Tactics. What another great week that we had, 3 days of classes and the classes after the class and just the environment that's down there. And staying relevant is important. I'm going to continue to train. I'm continuing to teach at the Fire Academy. So I'm staying in the books. I'm going to continue training with my training company. I might have more of a, hey, I would probably do things this way, looking back at my department. But again, I changed as much as I could with what I was able to change or maintain. You know what I mean? So my chief's orders were this. I did with this. I agreed with it. If I didn't, I'd say something to the chiefs and, hey, how about a different way? What's this or that? And did we always get along? Absolutely not. But I don't think the bigger guys or the CODs want a yes man. Sometimes they want to be challenged, and for the right reasons, not for the good of the department, not just for the good of the individual, but for the good of the department, the good of the citizens, the good, So there's always that aspect, and the retirees were able to bring that because yes, they have more of a sense of freedom of what they're saying. But again, it's yes, but the thing is, you got to remain relevant. Take a look at what Chief Lasky and Chief Solka, they're continuing to train and they're continuing to put out content that's information. Frank Viscuso, Chief Viscuso is doing some great stuff on his leadership. He just did the keynote out at FDIC. Guys that have been retired are still sharing that knowledge and passing it on because there's
Jim
younger
McCormack,
guys that haven't heard it.
FTTN. I just throw in
Jim
Jim
McCormack.
McCormack, FTTN,
My
right?
God.
Firefighter Disneyland.
My God, yeah, and guys are going there. I think Basil just went there. There's a couple guys. Rhodes just was there. I'm forgetting. I know Chief Isaacson was out there a little while ago. There's some amazing stuff. I'd love to get the opportunity to get out there and do some burns. His stuff is crazy. You look at even Timmy Klett, who's teaching some of the hoarding stuff that was just retired from FDNY, in a funny aspect of it's a small world. His brother was my daughter's chief of police. So where she's on the job, he just retired as a chief of police. But like I knew Tim and I took a picture of my daughter getting pinned with her badge and I sent it to Timmy. I'm like, this guy? He's like, yeah, that's my brother. So yeah, well, that's my daughter, so it's pretty funny how the emergency services tend to overlap and stuff, but you have to stay in the fire service. I've got more books that I'm trying to read now. I'm trying to read stuff on the military stuff to keep my leadership skills up, as well as making it applicable to the fire service.
All right. I think we're getting towards closing time here. We've been going about 90 minutes our usual. So I thought a cool way to kind of wrap this up would be let all of us kind of go around the ring here. And, if you got some advice for either anybody who is putting themselves out there or is kind of on the fence about it, let her rip. We'll let Rob go first.
Do it. But do it, but keep one very important thing in mind. That's the value proposition. If you're putting yourself out there, you're going to take that role or that and take that jump. Whatever you're doing has to be adding value to everybody that you are going to interact with. If it's the department, it's got to be adding value to it. It's got to be adding value to every member of the shift. I'm not saying that it's got to be like hey, like if you got that slug, you got to make sure that he gets it. That's not the point. It's just to make sure you're staying away from the negativity, because once you introduce you're taking value away from something or someone, and you're taking something down or tearing something down, you're going to lose every time. And just be 100% authentic to you. You don't have to be the South Bronx firefighter who survived the Warriors. You can just be Rob Ridley from Fairview, because if you got a message to give and you got the means to do it, go ahead and do it, but be authentically you and add value to everything and everybody that you can.
Right on, man. Right on. John, which one he wants to go?
Go ahead, Sean.
I'm going to kind of echo what Rob said. Don't be an ass. Don't just like go out there and just kind of like flex yourself because you can. There has to be purpose behind what you're doing. And as much as we fight to change things, we also have to keep in mind it's okay to fight not to change things, right? Change isn't always good. And we learned that throughout our fire service careers, right? Like where we did change something and years later we come back and realize like that was a huge mistake. We're going back to what really worked. So if you're fighting for a reason like why you shouldn't do this certain thing that everyone's doing, that's okay too. But just whatever direction you're going, whether it's changing or not changing, have the facts, make sure it's coming from a good place and not just your own personal opinion because you don't like something. Like Rob said, it's got to be good for everybody, and who cares? Like, this guy likes a AAA, this guy likes something else, but what is going to make you effective, right? What's the best thing for your department to do based off of how you're set up and your staffing levels or whatever the issue is? That's the ultimate factor. Why are we doing this, and what is the result that we hope to achieve? And as long as it's positive and it's progressive, I think you'll be okay. But don't be surprised if you don't get the results you want immediately, right? You're just gonna have to stick with it, and by sticking with it, I'm not saying every shift come in here and this. Let it be. You said your piece. Let it be for a little bit. Bring it back up at a different time, and just kind of keep revisiting it, and you might find that somebody who didn't hear you originally might hear you this time, and things are different. But ultimately, just don't be a dick, and you'll be all right.
And that's a great point with that Sean's saying, not being the dick, but don't always look for the change. Don't constantly push the change. You may see the change in small increments, not the bigger picture that you were thinking it was. Take the small steps and embrace those small steps of change. And again, don't be afraid to say, no, I don't think it's going to work, and give your reasons. Have facts, back your stuff up. But I was going to say, it's okay to be a target, but be prepared. Be mentally prepared to be that target. If you're going to step into that position, understand what that position is going to be about and have the backup to handle that position. Whether it's your board of directors that you have, or you reach out to, I call Sean, I reach out to Mark, I call Rob, I call Jeremy, I call Rob from Flow and Vent. I can call certain guys. I can call, John Dixon. There's a bunch of guys that I can call that I'm like, hey, am I off base? Where am I at? And there's certain guys that I know I can reach out that have a specialty. If it's admin stuff, I'm reaching out to Steve Prisborowski from Santa Clara, retired. Chief P is amazing. Or if I got something going along the lines of thermal imaging, I'm reaching out to Chief Starnes. Or fire behavior, it's Mike Daly and John, So knowing where you can fall back on to get your information is huge. But again, always have that backup. And once you have that backup and your message gets out there, you're going to slowly get buy-in. Nobody ever jumps in with both feet. Everybody puts a toe in first, right? Is it hot? Is it cold? Is the water just right? No one's jumping in with both feet. You've got to show them the way. All right. Show them why. Teach them the why. And if you do that, you're going to get better buy-in. And guess what? They're going to start selling the change. And it's not a sales pitch. It's about doing it for the better, like Sean said, the department, for your company. All right. It doesn't have to be a departmental change. Again, culture can be a small change that expands. You're not going to change a whole department in one union meeting or monthly meeting. It's going to be a small incremental thing. So again, don't jump. No one jumps in with both feet. It's always a toe, and then they're going to step in slowly. Don't get shot down. Don't get overwhelmed. Again, I'm gonna throw the Jocko thing in there. Look what Jocko puts out for good. Put up his 3-minute video of good for Jocko Willink and listen to it. And you might not get it this time, but there's a reason for it. And keep moving on. Keep pushing it. Keep the pressure on. 10 pounds of pressure 100% of the time. You're going to make that change and make sure it's a positive change. Bounce it off individuals that you know that are going to put you in check if you're wrong.
Right on. I'm going to start with echoing what Rob said. Do it, right? If you're on the fence, just get out there and do it. What do you have to lose? I would say first and foremost, understand that if you have any desire to do it, it should be about bettering your fire department than the fire service, right? And not advocating for yourself. I think people lose that sometimes. If you can't bring it home and incorporate it in some way, shape, or form, I know it's not always as easy as we'd like it to be, but if you're not doing it so that when you roll out the door, so you and your crew are better, then you're doing it for the wrong reasons. Take advantage of the opportunities you're given. Like I kind of touched on earlier, if you're going to be brought out to a conference somewhere, take classes. You're there, right? Somebody's going to pay you to go there or cover your airfare or your conference pass. Don't hide in your hotel room, right? Go out, meet people, see things, get out on the exhibit floor, go sit in on a class. The greatest thing about not being registered by your department or paying out of your pocket is you can bounce around. Like this class for 10 minutes, cool. Go bounce out and go and see somebody else's, right? But don't just go out there, and also, we didn't really touch on this earlier, but my wife, I know both of your wives have come to stuff, right? Make a little family vacation out of it, right? Bring your family, let them understand why you're away from home, right? Do things together. That goes with
Mark,
the balance.
Amy was down with me down in Pensacola. She has a blast, and she's meeting the other wives of the firefighters, and she's getting a better understanding of what it's about, and she's sharing information. The cool part is she was able to make some connections from my world into some of her other friends' worlds in the peer and family support aspect of it. So she was making connections from Oklahoma to Florida down this past week, which is amazing because that's just sharing more information out there to better the fire service in general.
Yep, very cool. And I would caution you on the kids, though. I think Sean in Columbus, your kids grew up like 10 years too fast in one walk to dinner that went horribly wrong. So
yeah, that was awful.
Oh, it was great, but they weren't my kids. So
well, they're your kids now.
That's true. They are my kids now. So I would also say on that too, like allow yourself to evolve. Don't get so addicted to your message that you can't take advice. You can't hear what other people are saying. It's okay to put yourself out there and then change your mind. And I see, especially internally in departments, people feel like because they advocated for a pistol grip for the first 10 years of their career that they can't have an epiphany that it's stupid, right? They can't just let it go. And now, oh, well, past decades, you like this. Okay, so you're going to have to stand up and say, yeah, I changed. Why can't you, right? So let yourself evolve with things. Don't hide under a rock, especially if you're allowed to teach somewhere. Just because you have an opinion doesn't make you the authority on fire attack, right? Or the authority on search. I guarantee Sean could go teach a class somewhere on search, who is probably one of the most knowledgeable people I know on the topic, and still learn something from somebody you've never heard of and incorporate it back into his stuff. So don't be that person. I'm gonna go with your Oklahoma connection here, and like our friend Corley Moore says, right? Mutts don't scrap, right? Like all the mutts are going to bark at you, but they're not going to fight you because they're too scared and they're too lazy and they're too lethargic. It would take too much effort for them to do more than to just, try to tear you down verbally, but most of them aren't going to get in your way. So don't even listen to that crap. And in my last two, if you're going to get out there and do something, you should want to do it, not need to do it. Teaching and speaking are not a part-time job, right? They're meant to better the fire service and yourself. So if you start relying on it, either for your confidence or, your inner circle or money, you got to kind of step back. That's not what it's for, right? You should want to be out there. And finally, bow out gracefully. There is somebody right here, right now, in another place far, far away that is slowly learning the things that all of us know here right now. They're better at it than they are. They know more than we know. And eventually they're going to replace us, at these conferences and on these Facebook pages and in these magazines. We all get 15 minutes. What you do with it, is your business. But when it's time to go, just go. Don't start trying to take other people down and tear them down. And, fuck that guy. I was talking about that 10 years ago. Like, enjoy what you had and then go back to your fire department, go back to your family and use the things you've learned and better yourself. That's all it comes down to for me. So closing song. God, John, I can't even talk. Your damn private messages. Closing thoughts, anybody? Anything we haven't touched on?
Eric, anything? Jeff, you want to jump in? I don't recognize Jeff. It's welcome to the show. I don't know if you've had him on in the past.
I'm not really sure.
So
Figured I'd recognize last name like that.
All right. So is it that time that we close it out?
I think it is, man. Sean, I'm glad you got to join us. Feel free to plug your conference one more time if you want, or anything you got going on.
Oh man, I probably cursed that thing like 30 times today. Yeah. So for anybody who doesn't know, next month here in Michigan, June 16th through the 18th, we're doing a 3-day conference. First day is lectures, myself, Steve Robertson, Todd Edwards, and Kyle Ramagas. And John's going to be there for the hands-on portion. So looking forward to seeing you and Amy.
He looks
Absolutely.
surprised.
I don't know about the
Oh.
hands-on portion, but
The
okay.
announcement has been made. You have been
No,
accepted.
That was part of the meeting tonight. So
Oh, that's good. No,
told.
I'm glad I was part of it.
Insider info.
No,
You've been voluntold.
A lot of
Voluntold, exactly.
Yeah, no. I said we'll put you to work doing something, and I found something for you to do tonight.
All good. Whatever you need.
So anyway, it's just a bunch of us, from all over just getting together. There's really not a whole lot of fire training here in Michigan other than what the state puts on, which is it's decent, but we're after real world stuff. So we're just bringing in everyone we know, and just kind of trying to make this a yearly thing for the state of Michigan to beef up our fire training. So we still do have registration open if anybody wants. We got a Facebook page, Great Lakes Hot, and it's gonna be a fun time. It's 2 days of hands-on training with live fire. So who doesn't like that?
Cool. Rob, you got anything to plug?
I do. I'm just getting the list here. No,
The list.
there really isn't that much. I'm just going to forget stuff. Revolutionary Fire This has a lake in July. I'll be out there, and hopefully it's going to be it's always a good time. The Woodwards have done, and the Lake Area Fools have done an amazing thing. So by all means, come see us out there. So I'm sure I got some other stuff going on. I just can't remember because I'm working the tail end of a 38 and I'm shot.
Totally
John?
understand. No, I'm enjoying retirement, staying busy. Training, teaching. We are renting out the cabin. No, I'm working.
VRBO backslash.
No. I'm not doing that. They take percentages and it's crazy. We're doing friends of friends with the cabin and everything else up in New York, but it's all good. It was great to see, like I said, when we were talking before, it was great to see Rob and Jeremy from National Fire Radio out at the big show doing their interviews. It was great to see. I guess it was almost back to the pre-pandemic numbers. You could probably give us the best. I
think it was
best insight on that.
Yeah, it was. They 40,000 was the number that somebody was throwing around. I think.
Cool.
Combining FDIC with the GEM stuff was good because now the EMS people can see how to have a good time, and hopefully the rest of their conferences won't be so boring. But I went and told the striker people, I was like, see, this is how you have fun. See, everybody's smiling. Nobody's like, moo, walking around slovenly.
I smile when I see a striker because it's not going to break my back. It loads itself.
It's not the beginning with the F, right? And the O.
Oh man.
Whoo. Those
Let's
stair chairs, my God.
I did scold Stryker though. I told him, I was like, yo, do you guys realize that you got to Stryker everything except EMS? And they were like, I'm sorry. And I was like, no, like I said, I'm not going to toot my own horn here, but I do a social media thing and I cannot tag your products. I tag Stryker Careers every time. Like, look on my Instagram, you're going to see it. And they're like, we didn't even realize. And I'm like, okay, well, is there somebody here we can talk to about making this account?
I'll take that referral fee, by the way. Thank you.
Yeah. We just got you more business.
They still don't have it, by the way. So
you should make
Stryker,
it. Just make a fake page and just tag them
yeah.
in it. And then
Glom it. Make your own. And then they owe you. They got to buy it from you. Come on,
yeah,
that's
you got
genius.
the domain. Let's see. I'm gonna go
Might
do
as
this
well
now.
do that.
Oh my God, that's awesome. If anybody's at the Metro Atlanta Fire Conference this week, I'll be there Friday afternoon and Saturday, learning about elevators and flowing some water on Saturday. So
Hey, who's teaching the elevator class?
I forget, to be honest with you.
Cool. Let me know.
I've never taken an elevator class in my career, and I finally found one that like wasn't overlapping with something else. So figured I'd go learn about it. And coincidentally, since I signed up, we've had like 2 or 3 elevator jobs. So
Listen, that's an up and coming thing, man. They
Telling you.
got computers.
oh, it's nuts. So
There are a ton of computers. That's one of my other things that we do teach, but that's fun. But it's great. There's a couple good companies out there teaching it. So I always tend to learn. Always want to sit in on classes like that.
So if anybody's there, come find me. We'll break some bread, have a drink or something. Other than that, I'm pretty much wide open. I didn't really put in for much here. We moved and been focusing on my yard work and family stuff. So
Retaining
time to
walls.
start.
Retaining walls.
Yeah, and I'm landscaping now, but no, it's I miss it a little bit. So if anybody hears this and wants to bring me in, I'm happy to travel again, do a little class
Shameless
here
plug.
and there. Might bring some of these guys with me if we can track down Sean.
Pablo, we got to find Pablo.
Yeah, speaking of which,
Pablo's
where in the
MIA.
world is Pablo Jenner, as John said earlier?
I don't know. He's like Waldo, man. He just kind of disappeared.
Why? Oh, he's a new daddy, so he's going through that. I definitely can understand that.
I'm gonna take him out of the intro and see if he shows back up. Like, oh, hey guys. Or just, I should remake it with the Waldo face over him, like crudely photoshopped.
Absolutely.
We got to do the stick figure, Pablo. Like, just bring him like everywhere.
Where is he?
Yeah.
So I guess I'm coming out to Great Lakes Hot. I'm doing some hands-on stuff for Sean.
Something.
And then I'm lucky enough I'll be down at Water on Fire. I'm not teaching, but I'm behind the scenes helping out down there, and out in September out at a firehouse, and then
See you there.
And then H Rock in December back down in Pensacola, and then again back in January.
If I'm not mistaken. Is that
What's
right?
that?
The last H Rock?
One of the last H Rocks that they're doing, the last Water on Fire. So I know, I think there's definitely tickets. I think H Rock's open it up. If you haven't done it, but jump in, Chief Ike does an amazing job down there. And, the class after the class is even better than the class.
All right. Well, let me hit this stop button. Thank you to the guys who joined us live and everybody that's listening on the recording. Feel free to reach out on Facebook, hit us up, and be on the lookout for our June episode announcement. And we kind of changed the format a little going forward. So it's kind of our brain power and you now, maybe a guest here and there, but we're just going to kind of roll with topics now. So check out the Facebook page in about a week and we'll get you a date for June. So everybody have a good night.